somebody is waiting.
Shri, what was the issue that you faced?
It's saying the host is letting you in. I had to wait for more than 7-8 minutes.
Oh. Okay.
That was then, Shri, when we were just setting it up some time back. So
Maybe,
now it
but I
won't
don't
be
know,
there.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Just curious if that could be the reason that people are waiting.
Right. So let's start.
Past 6, so we should start, and then
Yes.
maybe people will eventually join.
Yes. All right. So good evening, everybody, and I hope you all are doing well. On behalf of the Wiki Coaching Council, National Coaching Council, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the second episode of the Coach Dialogue series, Designing Your Marketing Strategy, Where to Play. Philip Kotler said, the aim of marketing is to reduce the need for selling. Today, we are attempting to discuss some pointers on this vast yet vital topic for any business, marketing. Every business is different, and in case of coaching, this holds quite true since the brand that we are talking about is often the coach herself. Today, we will try and deconstruct the basic marketing principles relevant to the business of coaching. To do this, we have a panel of 3 fantastic women from diverse domains of expertise who will give us their invaluable inputs in this context. And it is my pleasure to introduce them to you. In no particular order, Tanvi Bhatt. As the pioneer of personal branding in India, Tanvi empowers leaders to become thought leaders and thought leaders to become legends. She is the author of Think Like a Thought Leader, the secret toolkit of thought leaders who build iconic personal brands. Over the last 9 years, Tanvi has delivered over 200 corporate keynotes at global companies like LinkedIn, Accenture, Bank of America, and many more. She has inspired over 100,000 leaders and entrepreneurs at Indian as well as global forums like the CII, FICCI, PhD Chamber, TED conferences, TIE conferences, etc. Tanvi has over 7,000 hours of stagecraft presence and mastery and has delivered 3 TED Talks, with one of them being on the stagecraft Secrets of Extraordinary Orators. Next, we have Payal. Payal Khanna is a leadership development and youth empowerment coach and an academic professional with a strong educational background. She helps individuals resolve to continue growing in life, to see success, be victorious in the challenges encountered, live with depth and meaning, and become the true winners in life. Core to her approach is to enable self-discovery, to bring forth the inherent potential by identifying and challenging those things which inhibit the full expression of our positive potential. As a credentialed coach with ICF, she has worked with mid-level managers, senior level managers, management students, IITians, and professionals in helping them transform their lives at the very core. She designs and delivers programs and modules on resilience, leadership, entrepreneurship, absolute happiness, goal setting, self-empowerment, time management, well-being, and self-transformation, among others. Rosamund Paul. Rosamund heads talent and development for Schindler UK and Ireland, part of the Swiss multinational Schindler Group. With 15 years of diverse experience, Rosamund has been driving the talent transformation agenda through various HR interventions. Prior to Schindler, she had a 12-year stint with Tata Motors in India. After starting her career in marketing, she switched to human resources, having discovered her innate zeal for talent development. Through her career, Rosamund has worked in diverse roles handling talent attraction, business HR partnering, talent management and OD, inclusion and diversity, and corporate social responsibility. Rosamund is passionate about driving the talent agenda to unleash people potential and driving inclusion and diversity through equity. As a talent management leader, she is an advocate of owning up one's career and developing through self-calibration and continuous learning. Thank you, all 3 of you, for being with us today. It is an honor to have you on board to discuss our today's event. Jumping right into today's discussion, looking at the time, the coaching market in India is at a developing stage at best. The awareness around coaching and the demand for coaching services is ever increasing, even in this young, new market. This makes it even more important for us to study what the coaching market holds for us coaches and aspiring coaches. In this context, my first question is to Payal. Payal, what do you think of the coaching market in India? What is your view on the current market scenario?
Thank you, Shraddha, first of all, for having me. And I will have to ask everyone to excuse me because I'm still at the campus and there will be some student noises in the background. I've been trying to move to a place where there is less disturbance, but I hope you will all accommodate. Thank you so much. Thank you for that question, Shraddha. I think it's a very important and a prudent question at this point in time. See, if you look at the coaching industry, it's a very relatively new concept, and particularly in India, right? So if you were looking at almost a decade ago, people were not really understanding what the intervention coaching can, bring or can do for, and particularly for the leadership, right? And now when we look, fast forward to 2020, we are looking at almost so many international coaching federation chapters in India, and almost a couple of trained coaches across India, and then so many local and regional and national and global coaching conferences happening across. So professional coaching industry, if you ask me, is steadily growing. It is also the second fastest growing sector in the world, right? And at this pace, I think, and with more and more people opening up to the understanding that coaching is something that will bring in that shift in their lives that they're looking for. So the question to the answer to the question whether coaching is a growing industry, it's a resounding yes, if you ask me. And the kind of work that I've been doing right now with a lot of youth at this point in time, I also see a shift in the nature of how coaching is perceived by different organizations and institutions. And when I talk about my niche area, which is working in a higher educational institute and bringing coaching to, to the age group between 18 to 25 right now, the youth, in universities, there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of things that we are seeing in terms of acceptance and open, embracing of coaching. But at the same time, I see there's a lot of potential for growth of this industry in this sector particularly, right? And in any case, I mean, we are saying that every kind of life coach, there's so many types of life coach these days with their own niche areas, and it's literally skyrocketing the kind of needs they are catering to of the clients, right? So I think it is very important also for us as coaches to understand that we need to know our market, because once we know our market, we will be able to understand what to focus on, what to invest in, where does the future lie, right? And this will also help us because as you said at the outset, we'll be talking about developing our own brands. So I think with all that we are seeing, the technological innovation at the speed that it is happening, the stressors that people are facing in the modern life, right? So I think anybody from a Fortune 500 CEO to a wide-eyed young student that I see at the campus, everybody's looking for somebody who can assist them to be their best selves. So, and then people in transition, people changing careers, even students. Again, I'll keep talking about students because that is largely my core area of work at this point in time when we talk about coaching. So even any professional, I have so many academicians now coming up to me and wondering if they could also venture into coaching, which is like really welcome. When I see that, it really gladdens my heart, because and then there are some academicians who are thinking about even moving from their industry. So how do you understand that you go into a field outside the field that you are booted from and navigating this huge change, So it may require an expert hand, and that is where, I think coaching industry, I would say it's the trend is a promising one. And if we look at, so I was just reading up a global coaching study that was conducted by ICF, right? 2 years ago during the when COVID hit us. And this is one of the largest coaching industry research study. And the objective of the study was to determine the scope and the size of the coaching profession, and looking at managers and leaders, who use coaching skills. So what was captured in the study was that there's a 36% rise, in the demand for coaching as compared to 2016. So we see that there is a growing acceptance of coaching in the corporate world and even outside now. And when I'm working with students also at the campus, right, we are largely focusing on leadership development. And that is what the survey also brought about by ICF, that the 3 coaching specialities that people are looking for, organizations, individuals, institutions are looking for, are leadership development and managerial coaching, and also team coaching and organizational coaching, right?
Right.
So, and also in India, I'm sure all of you would agree that people do understand coaching more when we talk about life coaching. So they understand the term life in the colloquial language, right? They understand life coaching a little bit more. And the percentage in India is almost 16% in terms of significance, again, brought out by the same study. So I think within a decade, if we are looking at a steep rise in terms of, again, from the numbers from a different research, that 132 times, the industry has grown 132 times, which is mind-boggling, right? It's like a nuclear reactor, levels, so I think we are all in a promising zone right now. And the fact that it is such a noble profession, I don't think I have to reiterate or underscore the importance of that, because how we are helping, I think, our own selves also at the same time, overcoming those obstacles and really creating that space for people to be able to, work on their own self-growth and development. Yes, there is a market confusion around what coaching can do and what are the benefits of coaching, and particularly in India, or for that matter, Asia, vis-a-vis the European market or the US market. Where US market, you would see the numbers are phenomenal, the way the growth is happening for coaching and how people perceive coaching. We do still have a lot of apprehensions around this intervention in the Asian market. But I think with the growing need, where everyone, not just leaders now, where everyone is wanting to perform, is understanding how to be agile, innovative, adaptive, and are looking at empowering themselves and the people they are working with, right? I think it is becoming imperative, rather, for everyone to seek the self-awareness, right? And what better than seeking out a coach in terms of that. So you have to let me know when I have to stop because I could continue talking about this forever, right? And I think the major shift, sorry, yes.
No, I'm continuing, please.
Okay, so I think also the major shift that has happened is that, people, because when I started this project at a tier 2 city, right, people are seeing coaching as a remedial intervention, like a fix-it tool, right? That it's going to fix an individual. So I think that shift in approach also, where people realize that it is all about creating self-awareness. Otherwise, coaching is going to fail. And we did experience that at the campus, because even after all the awareness building that we were doing at the ground level, there was still this misconception that coaching is maybe similar to mentoring and training, and that's what maybe a coach would do for the student or for the faculty. But after a few failed attempts, I think everybody has started realizing that it is so important for an individual to be curious and vulnerable and also reflect internally and be ready for that change, right? Being honest to your own self. So we are encouraging students to be really honest to themselves and bring to the table whatever they feel that they need to, reflect upon. Because as long as there is a minimal buy-in from the student who is a client for now, coaching is not going to be effective. And it is so deeply entrenched into our minds to always seek that people tell us what is to be done, right? I think right from our schooling to the way we are brought up in the Asian context of culture, we are so tuned to people telling us what to do. So that where that shift happens, that I am going to be in so I think that in that way the coach is the right resource, and this is where the market is going to really grow. So whether you're talking about transitioning roles, changing careers, students, professionals, even housewives, women entrepreneurs. I've done a lot of work with women entrepreneurs in the agricultural sector, with TCSRD. So Tata's beautiful initiative of empowering women at the grassroots level. So I think, as we all say in the coaching parlance, everybody needs a coach now. So because finally self-awareness is not limited only to leadership, right? It's for all of us. And the need of the hour is that. And it is because I also do believe in a lot of work around happiness. How do you create that happiness for yourself, which is not temporary, transient, which is more about absolute happiness. So I think an essential ingredient to living a life with happiness is self-awareness, and coaching does really bring in that creates that space for that kind of self-awareness to happen. And I think more and more people are understanding this, and that's how it's directly impacting the way coaching industry is growing in India, for that matter. Yes. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Payal. It's very heartening to understand that the coaching market is growing. That's what we want, right? And since we are discussing the coaching market, I would like to address Roseman. It is the aim of marketing to figure out also the customer need. So from your experience, we need to understand what the market needs? Your thoughts on how this would apply in case of coaches and how they design their offering?
Yeah, I think I allude completely to what Payal is telling, that the coaching industry is really growing significantly. And if you look at the need, everybody needs coaching. But when you look at corporates, they're going to prioritize where they require coaching, because coaching does not come today for free. Yeah, so people also look at what are the various needs, what are the various transition points. In the first place, as HR leader, you also need to sometimes convince the business that coaching is a requirement. While there is a growing coaching industry, there's also a parallel mindset in the minds of people where they're not looking primarily only at coaching as a product, but are looking at a wholesome development. Because from an organization point of view, it is not what the coach wants to offer, but what's in it ultimately for the organization, not just for the employee when coaching is offered to the employee. So when I look at primarily where the first priority comes in today, if I look at majority of needs that business leaders put forth to HR, it is executive coaching, which is predominantly common. And when I look at executive coaching, it applies not just to the current incumbents, but also to succession pipeline. So the first instance where the CEOs or the function heads, the CXOs require coaching is because as you go up the ladder, you're sometimes also lonely. Sometimes you need a coach just to be a listening board. Sometimes you need a coach just to help you track your progress, to help you achieve your goals, be that mirror to help accelerate your growth. Because even as a CEO, you might have your own self-limitations when you're doing your transformation journeys. And therefore, at an executive level, we in-state coaches for people. Then there's also a second reason where we really find coaches useful for the executives. That's where there's no upward feedback mechanism that is being given to the CEOs and the CXOs, because they are at the top and people will never be having enough radical candor to go and give them feedback. So that is where we feel that the coaching experience that these CEOs and CXOs have helps them move through their own derailers, help them identify their blind spots, and really work towards their own self-development. Yeah, so that's where I think executive coaching plays a very important role, and where we look for coaches to come and be those guardian angels and venting, people who are the sounding boards for the CEOs and CXOs to help them scale through and realize their full potential. The second place where today many leaders again look for coaching is when you look at your succession pipeline. So when you want to fill your leadership positions and when you do a succession planning exercise, we also realize that not everyone is 100% ready. People are just 70% ready, or maybe even 60% ready, but you identify that they have potential and you want them to take up internally the positions instead of going out and always buying talent. And that's when, again, we require coaches, because we want those transitions to be smooth and not really the sailing bus or the sailing train to stop suddenly because there's a new incumbent in the position. And therefore, again, whenever there are people identified in succession, a transition coach is required to enable this person. Or say if I am deploying a high potential person to a new assignment, which the person has never done as part of a developmental assignment, then again, we require a coach, but this coach would be for a skill and not really for success or performance oriented coach, but maybe for a skill enhancement. So for example, if I'm having a person who has only dealt with a certain span of control and then now is going to handle big volumes and big business, then we need somebody who will focus on a particular competency of enabling this person. So maybe strategic thinking, or maybe, the ability to influence, the ability to negotiate, it is then limited to that particular competency that we want coaches for. Then another strong need that I've felt in the recent times in multiple organizations with change of leadership is that the business is not just looking for a one-on-one coaching for couple of CEOs, a couple of CXOs, or a couple of leaders. But what we're looking for is, can we have a market where there is a coach for the entire leadership team, especially when there's a new leader who is setting up the business and has inducted new people on the board of leadership? It's important that diverse people come in, but are they working cohesively towards business performance? And the success of any business is when this leadership team is really strong and powerful. So I'm not sure if any of you have read this book, but this $1 trillion coach book, where you read about Bill Campbell, how he has really supported the board for Apple, Intuit, and Google, and how he really worked with each of the individual players one-on-one, as well as with the group, because then he understands the developmental strengths and the weaknesses, the strengths of every individual there, and has helped the entire cohort together. So that's where I think a group coaching mechanism today, which is really underutilized today, despite its success in the past, where you can actually show the business the need for coaching there and really help transform, because there you're working not just for one executive, but working for all executives to ensure that they are in sync and they are able to work as a team. And there is real performance acceleration, real success for the organization when this team cohesively delivers the business results. So that's one pertinent need that I feel. And when I say, I know I quoted examples of Apple, Google, Intuit, which are big companies, but today when you look at that, you don't need to limit yourself to big organizations to start this. Even if it's a small startup, even if it's a small firm of small size, which has just 4 or 5 leaders, but I think coaching at this level will actually help the business with results, and there will be a return on investment that the coach can show as a success story to people. Yeah. One more area where I see coaching can really play a big role is the DEI coaching. So today, most companies have diversity and inclusion targets, and everybody's chasing because it's hyped up so much. So sometimes it's so hyped up that you don't know whether it's really the essence of the organization or is it hyped up. But then people are not ready, or people really do not understand everything about diversity and inclusion, and yet they want to pursue the cause. So when you have, diversity and inclusion coaches coming in specifically, they can create awareness in these leaders who might not even be aware of what to do, where to start, and how to really develop the whole aspect of diversity and inclusion. And also, how do they really minimize their own biases when they are ambassadors of diversity and inclusion? So this is another field that I think that coaching can really play a big role. I was also recently, when I was exploring vendors for coaching for my own organization here, I came across this organization which told me that they offer everything together. So what they said was that they have a platform where they will assign a primary coach to an individual employee, and then this person would have some secondary coaches. So even if I have the primary coach who is supposed to help me with my organizational goals, with my developmental objectives of my career, I can also reach out to other coaches offered through this ecosystem of coaches, where I can reach out to somebody who is good in well-being, somebody who is good for maybe, where there are issues with marriages, where there are issues with relationships or health, where I think Payal spoke about the whole aspect of life coaching. But now this is an integrated platform. So in this integrated platform, you're not just offering an executive coaching, but also all the others, which again, today, post the COVID era, all organizations are ready to invest in the well-being of employees. So instead of looking at coaching just from one lens, I think we'll need to, diversify the needs and see if we can create a need also for the organization where we show what our skills are.
Right. Thank you so much, Rosamond. You beautifully compartmentalized the different avenues in which coaches can aspire to create their niche. Talking about the way coaches should design their offering, pricing becomes glaringly important to be discussed. So Tanvi, your input would be invaluable here. how does a coach come up with the price that they should quote for the service that they are offering? You're on mute, then.
Sorry, didn't realize that. Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think pricing is so important because that's an area that most of the coaches struggle with, especially if they're venturing into it. And I happen to it myself when I go into the world of coaching, but I don't like to call myself a coach even today after 10 years in this space. I still think of it as a strategy work that I do. But a lot of coaches think of themselves as certified coaches, right? And they think that whatever industry level prices are, there are the same pricing that I will deserve or I should demand. But there are a couple of different dimensions to look at pricing. I'd like to talk about three things right now, especially if you're a newbie coach, if you're doing, if you're venturing into coaching for the very first time, right? Then you need to think about it as a penetrative pricing. You have to venture into the market and get some clients to build that visibility and credibility and reputation for yes, as a new coach on the block. So that pricing strategy will completely differ than a lifestyle pricing strategy where you've been an established coach for at least 5 years plus, because that's the kind of time that we see for coaches to establish themselves as the go-to experts in the industry and then demand a premium pricing. So then you decide on what kind of clients you want to do, what level of clients you want to work with, how many hours you want to work in a month. And then you decide based on that, what kind of income you want to generate to maintain the lifestyle that you want to make it. So that's called a lifestyle pricing determination. And then the third and the most important pricing is the necessity pricing for coaches who are trying to explore the world of coaching parallelly as a side gig or a side hustle while they're doing something else, while they're employed somewhere else, perhaps, because they've been in the corporate industry for 15 to 20 years and now they want to move into the world of coaching and become more independent. So that becomes a necessity pricing where you start small to understand how the market is responding, whether you're a certified coach, not certified coach, it does not matter at this point of time. But necessity pricing will help you understand what you need to make to put the same food on the table that you're doing right now with your set take-home salary. So these are the three strategies that you should be aware of when you're looking at how to adopt pricing. And of course, there are multiple aspects to how much, right? And that will really depend on how new or old you are, what industry you are in, what kind of competition is there, what are the industry leaders charging, what or how hungry you are for work, honestly, what kind of organizations you want to work with, MNCs, SMEs, MSMEs, etc. So those are different factors that you need to decide for yourself before you even put a number onto whether it is your hours, because there are three levels of pricing you can have, right? You can have what you charge on an hourly basis as a coach. There's a different aspect to it where you can charge a monthly retainer saying that, hey, I'll be available for X hours, where you can have 4 hours of coaching sessions with me. And then there's accessibility beyond those 4 hours, another bonus 1 hour saying that I would be available if there's anything in between you need to consult me or be my, have me as your soundboard. And then there's a third level of it that you have to look at is that, okay, if I'm not going to be working on an hourly coaching basis, I'm not going to be working on a retainer model, then I need to have a package where I offer A, B, C, D things over and above, which is my hourly commitment to certain offerings, deliverables that my clients may need beyond just coaching. Or I love the concept of the primary and secondary coaches, because I know a lot of clients who collaborate with other peers in their network to offer a cohesive coaching value proposition. And it's like a bundled offering that they bring on the table. So the pricing will change for that also, because there are multiple stakeholders who are offering coaching in that. So that becomes a package format pricing strategy. But what I personally love and really respect, because very, very few coaches are able to do this, is paid for results. And this is something that Dr. Marshall Goldsmith introduced in the world for the very first time. And that's how it became so popular, that you get paid as a coach only if your coachee is showing the kind of results. And those results are not determined either by you or your coachee, but the stakeholders involved. So that's a fourth aspect of figuring out how we want to price your services, whether it's on results or it's a flat fee that you charge them. But I would like to say one thing before I wrap up and hand it over to you. As regardless of where you are in your career in life, remember that your personal brand will be a huge influential factor in the kind of numbers you can put to your services, because how you view yourself in the industry and how others view you, at what level you're positioning yourself, the value proposition that you're bringing on the table, how niche or how exclusive that is. If you are, and I have this disdain for this word niche, honestly, because niches are common, niches are generic, right? As a coach, do you want to be a generic niche belonger, or as a thought leader, do you want to be a category creator? Because if you're going to be playing the same game of, okay, I'm going to identify niche because, okay, this is something that I've been involved with, I want to get involved with, and I see myself being comfortable in this place. So let's identify this niche and play in that niche. You will be one of the 100,000 people who are coaching in that niche. But if you decided, okay, I'm not going to play the vanilla leadership game and I'm going to elevate myself as a thought leader coach in the industry, then you need to focus on becoming a category creator in the industry, because then there is no upper limit of what you can charge when you're a category creator. When you're in the niche, you still are sailing in the same boat with another 100,000 coaches in your country, in your geography, in your region, and in the world. How are you going to differentiate yourself? You have to differentiate yourself, and hence, be able to demand a premium pricing in your industry when you become a category creator and are committed to playing the game of thought leadership.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for that. I have some follow-up questions, but I'm very aware of the time. So I am going to move on for now.
Sure.
It is said that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So pitch story. Rosamond, continuing this discussion, what are your thoughts on what a coach should include in her pitch to an organization, or more importantly, should not? In other words, what do organizations look for when they're selecting a coach?
I think in today's market, with which also I think Payal mentioned, while the coaching industry is growing, there's also there are also many coaches and less coaches, because when you look at any organization, they don't invest in coaching for all. So it becomes very difficult even for organizations to choose the right coach. While everyone wants the purple squirrel, I think to get that right, an ideal coach is not easy. And therefore, a coach plays a big role in the way they pitch to the organization. In my view, at least the way I have seen business leaders or HR leaders or myself, when we actually assess coaches and when we meet them, first and foremost, we are also not looking at any general coach. So as Tanvi said, everyone needs to identify their niche. We also want to know what is that coach's USP. So it's important for every coach who comes to the table to market themselves to the client, to actually sell their value proposition. It's like any product. Here, the product is the coach and the coaching service that you are giving to the client. So it's important that you actually showcase your USP. While it is common to know that, any evaluation of a coach will look at the credentials of the coach. So it's also important that you actually tell about your credentials, not just your certification from the ICF, but also in terms of who is your clientele, how many coaching hours have you done, and then what are your success metrics? Can you really show us glowing testimonials from the coaches? And it's important that the coach brings this onto the table, because when you engage a coach, it's a long-term commitment. Yeah. And no organization wants to do coach hopping. Like today, I keep Payal as a coach, then I change to Tanvi, then I change to Shraddha. That's not what any organization is ready to do. And it's a one-time decision that they, evaluate coaches and then come on to the board. And therefore, every coach, when they pitch their marketing, it's important that they also show proven systems. So if you have frameworks, or if you have the methodology that you're going to do, is important. While we know what coaching is, but it's important that you present to us what is the methodology that you're going to follow, how is your engagement going to be. Yeah. And not only your engagement and modus operandi of the coaching that you follow, but can you also tell us how are you going to dashboard it back to us? How are you going to report success? Are you going to baseline where my coaches are today? Are you going to give us reports quarterly, midterm, at the end? Most of the time, many people miss this element out. They just speak about their accolades, accreditations. So it becomes a lot of me in the coach when the coach is marketing. And it should not be you. But what's in it for the organizations that you have worked with? What have you transformed? That becomes very essential. And one more thing to note is that most coaches are freelancers unless they are associated with an organization or a board of coaches that come together. So there are also at times fears in the HR fraternity. If we appoint, say, a freelance coach, what if tomorrow the freelance coach gives up the role or is not well? What will happen to the entire developmental journey? So maybe one tip that I would give budding coaching people who are entering into this profession and are also well established is that while you bring yourself as the coaching service provider, can you also introduce us to one or two people who you say you have accreditation to or you're associated with, just in case of an emergency? We know that we're not dealing with a one person, but we are also dealing with a group. At least we know that if Tanvi today is not able to do the assignment for a couple of months, we have someone else for whatever reasons, that someone to as a backup. Otherwise, what happens is most of the time organizations tend to look at organizations that offer coaching than individuals who offer coaching, because we are not sure if the individual is able to, be there with us till the coaching journey is prevalent. Yeah. Another aspect of the whole coaching model is that, is the coach really flexible, or is it an off-the-shelf product that the coach will just speak about a model and then say this is what we are here to offer? Or is the coach flexible, adaptable to the organization needs? Can the coach understand the underlying needs of the organization and therefore suggest and be a little flexible too? So this is another aspect that we would look at coaching. One more thing is, while everyone talks about the chemistry and the affinity connect of the coach and the coachee, it's also important when you go with your proposition to the organization that you are able to establish the right affinity with the decision makers of the organization. Most of the time, coaches only talk about the chemistry between the coach and the coachee, and the whole rapport building, relationship building with the organization decision makers fails, and that will not enable you to get through even to the organization and to the coachees. And therefore, it's important that you strike that rapport with the organization and share your success stories. Do you also have a thought leadership platform? As Tanvi said, personal branding is very important for the coach. Other than what you offer as coaching, which is happening, without the organization being involved in the whole one-on-one coaching aspect, do you have a blog? Do you have a content? Do you have a website which we can look up to see what your credentials are? What are the testimonials? What kind of content are you an expert in? So that also becomes important for an organization. There have been also times when, while we say that in the field of coaching, you don't need to be an expert in the field that you're coaching, right? For example, if you're coaching a CEO of a telecom industry, you don't need to, as a coach, you don't need to be a telecom industry expert. But there are also times when some business leaders want somebody with a proven expertise and then have subsequently become a coach to come. So it's important for you to understand what is the need. And if some of you are people who have some expertise in subject matter and then have become coaches, I think you also have to identify if you can cater to that target audience, because there, see, the first ice that you have to break with the organization is where you're brought into the organization. And therefore, it's important for you to understand that need and say that if you are a manufacturing expert and a coaching is required for a plant head. So it's important that you also tell on what are the credentials that you have brought in from that standpoint. One more thing that we often decide or evaluate when you meet the coach for the first time is also the energy, the enthusiasm the coach brings on the table. Because today, if I see a coach who is not really striking the persona triggers like empathy, care, and the positive vibes that I expect from the coach, I'm sure that, even if the coach is the most successful person on earth, the organization will not take the coach for a coaching assignment. And therefore, it's important that the coach also brings upon the table the growth mindset that the person has, on how expansive the person is in terms of their own thought process, their own, what they are doing to really uphold their, are they continually learning? It's like I may have an ICF accreditation, but what am I doing further to enhance my tools, my techniques of coaching is also important. I think the other day I was also talking about another organization need that we all have is that when we look at coaching, an organization is not looking at coaching as a standalone solution. So the ultimate objective for an organization is that we have a one-stop solution for everything. So if I'm planning something for my high potentials in the organization, can the coach through their network bring a wholesome package as a solution, not just coaching? So while the coach may provide just coaching, can the coach also say, in my network, I have this training provider, in my network, I have this person who is going to help on mentoring, so a varied, what do I say, a holistic package. Yeah, because what happens is today, where we all struggle for bandwidth of time, and we really cannot go to, for X person for coaching, Y person for training, Z person for working on a cross-functional assignment. So it is good if a coach can combine things through their own network and through available resources in the market. And when they pitch to the organization, bring in a solution that is going to help the organization in every possible way, and not just offer coaching as a standalone solution, because coaching as a standalone solution may not be the underlying need for that organization, for that target audience that they have. Now, since Shraddha also asked me, what are things that a coach shouldn't do? I think when you come for the sales pitch to the organization, please don't be very pushy and sound like a salesperson. Don't hard sell your service, because when you hard sell your service, unlike other services, this is very unique. Coaching, the moment you make it sound very commercial, the organization will never be interested. I remember when I needed a coach for executive presence for some of my employees, I happened to speak to this particular coach, and the coach was just telling about the budget, the price, the cost, and the person was not really, helping us beyond that. And that itself was a strict no then from our CEO that, we are not going ahead there. Yeah. So I think that's something that coaches should avoid. Then when you come for the sales pitch or your marketing pitch, please don't do a vanilla discussion without a thorough framework and thorough proposal of what all the coaching journey is going to encompass of. And don't rush the decision for the client, because it's a very long-term commitment for the client, and therefore the client is going to evaluate a lot of pros and cons before signing up with a coach immediately. And if you can also offer what I call a test drive or a taster session, that will be very good, because it's a commitment of 8-9 sessions per executive. So it'll be good if you're able to provide, even if it's not pro bono, can you offer a session where it is just one session, so we also understand whether this is going to tick or not in the organization. So that's something that you can proactively offer without the organization asking you for it, because it helps them instill faith in your connect. They also get some vibes of the person, understand at least some aspects of the coach before they sign up for the coaching contract. And as a coach, I would also strongly recommend that please don't sign up for short-term assignments like 1 coaching session, 2 coaching sessions, if that's not what you are here to offer, because that will only spoil your reputation as a coach, because you're not able to do any changes in 1 or 2 sessions, right? And therefore, at the end of the 2 sessions, people will feel that it just came in as an intervention and nothing really changed for the employee. And then the faith in the whole aspect of coaching also gets lost. So if you're looking at long-term, please look at long-term projects, or be very clear with the client in the beginning itself that this is what will happen in these 2 assignments. Beyond this, we cannot do, because a coaching assignment requires a long-term commitment and a long-term journey.
Right.
Yeah. And don't show fuzzy results. So if you really want to show results, if you're doing a 360 in the beginning of the initial conversation when you're going to set out, even if you're not having the budget to run a complete psychometric assessment, at least do a simple 360 feedback, because the ultimate proof of the pudding is when I see that Shraddha got coached through an intervention, and people who work with Shraddha tell that we really see a change in Shraddha. It's because the journey in Shraddha would have started after 3 or 4 coaching sessions, but the actual feedback or the results that the organization looks for is when other stakeholders say that, yes, we see Shraddha has changed from this level to this level.
Right. That is super helpful, Roseman. And there is merit in looking at it from the lens of the organization. So Yes, it is an important question, and there is a lot yet to be discussed, but I'm very aware of the time again, and I'm going to move on. Payal, let's talk a little bit about target segmentation. How important is it to really identify a target segment? So we did, then we did touch upon, the niche bit. However, when you are designing an offering, do you think target segmentation is important, and does it change the way you coach?
Yeah, I think, thank you so much. This is a really relevant question again, and it beautifully does integrate with what Tanvi spoke about when she said, I think really beautifully summarized the personal branding part, and Rosmin as to what organizations are looking for, right? So it's all about the needs and the priorities. So when I'm talking about segmentation, it is more, I think, inclined towards the point that who are the audience I want to cater to, who are the people I want to work with, right? So I think I will just share a couple of maybe 7-8 points as to why segmentation is important first, and what segmentation really means. So when I'm looking at identifying a target segment, I'm largely looking at the demographics also. And if you look at, these days we're also looking at infographics and firmographics and, how individual lifestyles, would dictate the coaches, the client they're working with. So when we talk about demographic, it's largely the individuals. When we talk about firmographics, it's largely about the institutions and firms, right? And organizations. So I think it is extremely important, if you look at the first point, is what do you want? If you are able to identify your target segment, you will be able to send out very strong marketing messages, which really marries very well with what Tanvi was speaking about, right? Because you can't have a very generic and vague pitch anymore. It is very important for you to identify the specific group of people you want to work with, because these are the people you relate to, and because you understand their characteristics, wants and needs. So for me as an academician, I have worked all my life with students, and how I really saw once I ventured into the profession of coaching that I want to bring these together, that I continue to work with youth as well as also be able to help them, empower themselves, as we talk about what coaching really does. So my passion really was about, working with youth. And I think when also Tanvi spoke about be a category creator and not just any one niche area that you pick up and you start working on or with, I think this, I was reflecting upon that, and I realized that this is what we are doing at Shulman University also right now, because we are creating that category. We are creating, in fact, the need for coaching for a specific group of people, right? And then once you have a strong understanding of your target segment, you're able to also do very targeted advertising, right? Because market segmentation helps you understand and define your audience, their characteristics, and also your marketing efforts in terms of where they are located. So what I do with these students is going to be very different from what I do with students in Bangalore, So the location really matters a lot. What are the kind of, buy-in from this kind of clientele? What are the specific ages I'm working with? What are the interests of the group that I'm going to work with? And this is going to help me develop my effective marketing strategies as well. So knowing my target audience would give me a head start in terms of what are the methods I'm going to adopt, what are the tactics that I'm going to, work with, and what are the solutions that are going to come my way when I do that. And then obviously when I do all of this, when I'm able to decide and define my target, advertising efforts and develop effective marketing strategies and have stronger marketing messages, I'll be able to have better response rates, and I will be able to attract the right customers, because I will be, directly communicating through very clear messaging with the people I want to attract, who should buy from me. And again, going back to what Rosmin was talking about, it's not going to be a hard sell, because people love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. So you have to create that kind of a space where people would love to work with you. They would look forward to work with you, right? And this would also somewhere be integrated very closely with increasing your brand loyalty. When Tanvi was speaking about, when the customer will feel that you are offering that unique service, right? And they will feel trusted, as again, Rosmin was talking about. It's not just about the chemistry that you are creating, it's the overall rapport that you create. And when you understand your target audience and your market segmentation, you're able to do that. You're able to increase the chances of your brand loyalty. And then how are you going to differentiate yourself from all the thousands of coaches that are already there in the market? So what will happen when you have your market segmentation? You will be able to personalize your messages that will make your brand stand out. And and also staying consistent with the kind of work that you are doing, because segmentation in one way is going to be linear, right? Because this is one target audience that you have identified for yourself. So it is easy to stay on track with what you're going to do and not like really get deflected and distracted into less effective areas. Then it is about, why would they come back to you? So you also create, so I'm just trying to, like on the go, trying to bring about what Rosamond and Tanvi said into what when we're talking about market segmentation. So when you will be able to offer that kind of service, the customer will be encouraged to buy from you again. Why should the student in my university come back to me again? So if they have been coached in the final year, should they, once they venture out into the corporates as alum, come back to us and say, I want to be coached again? So what is going to drive my growth? And so I think these are some of the points that, I was really thinking about when talking about market segmentation. And definitely the last one, again, reiterating, Tanvi's point, the category creation is largely about your own product development. What is that unique product that you have developed that is designed to meet the needs of the people that you have on the top of your mind, right? And how we are going to be able to meet those needs is exactly what Rosamond spoke about, all those things put together, right? So I think it is a combination and culmination of so many different aspects and dimensions of, what you as a person, as a coach, and, as a service provider will bring to the table. So I think all of this put together is definitely very, very important to understand market segmentation. And the second part to your question, I will just quickly, just touch upon it. Will the coaching approach change? Like, right, Shraddha, that was your question?
Yes.
Will the approach change?
Yes.
So I think as a principle, coaching largely would be the kind of intervention it is. But definitely when you are catering to a certain demographic, there would be very subtle nuances that might be call for to be integrated into your coaching approach. So when I was working with executives, it was largely again coaching intervention, but how you are bringing yourself as a coach to this audience is a little different from when I was working with women entrepreneurs who are not educated. And then absolutely different from the approach changes when I'm working with youth, right? Yes, the coaching intervention as a principle, the fundamentals would stay the same, right? But then also I've understood while working with almost 600 students now at the campus in less than 10 months is what, Rosamond touched upon. It may not be sometimes purely coaching, but a complete package, right? You may have to don different hats depending upon your target audience. Mentoring a bit, maybe counseling a bit, maybe training a bit, and then also coaching. Maybe largely coaching stays the main approach, but then also be very transparent and lucid with what you're offering and why you're offering it, and how does it keeping the process very completely open in terms of the client also understanding that what is that you bring for them and why, right? So why becomes very important here. So I think that's all from my side for this question.
Thank you, Payal. So target segmentation is who you speak with. And just quickly, we have to do this because it's a very crucial topic of communication, where we live in an era of too much information. But ironically, this deepens the need for relevant information to be highlighted. Tanvi, what are your thoughts on communication strategy for coaches?
I think coaches need to have a two-pronged communication strategy. One, while they're helping others get clarity on their own issues as a coach, they need to get that clarity on what their thought leadership is. For that, internal clarity is extremely important. That journey begins from shifting your lens of thinking from being just a leader to a thought leader. Regardless of what background you've had, we've all had some leadership roles in our lives, but we've all seldom had thought leadership roles in our life. The first step is to shift the way you think, to stop thinking like just another vanilla leader in the industry, to start practicing thought leadership. And that's where I want you to ask these 4 questions to yourself before you even talk about communication strategy and how do you position your brand as a go-to expert or authority in your industry, or like we said, the category creator. And category creation will birth from thought leadership creation. Okay. So these 4 questions are what I want you to ask yourself, ladies. Who are you? Answer this using your passions and values. What do you do? You're not a coach, you're not a life coach, you're not a leadership coach, you're not a career coach. What value proposition you bring on the table by doing the work that you do, which is the value creation of coaching. Whom do you do it for? Who is your target audience? Building on what Payal said, target audience is the direct benefactor of the value that you're creating and transferring, the thought leadership that you have designed. Okay, something that you've put together based on 3 things. Remember, thought leadership sounds very abstract. And if you ask one other person who is an evangelist of thought leadership to define it, they'll seldom find it difficult. But after 10 years in this industry, I've realized that there are 3 things that thought leadership encompasses that I want you to be focused on. What you do better than anyone else, what you do different than anyone else, and what you do novel than anyone else. Okay. Drive this into communicating about your target audience's value proposition that you're bringing on the table. How you're adding value, which is better, different, and novel to that desired target audience in your own unique way, unlike anyone else in your industry. And finally, the 4th W is why. Not why you do what you do, why you matter. It's your personal brand at the end of the day, right? That we're speaking about. So focus on the facts, figures, results, accomplishments, accolades, anything that will help you build that desired credibility that you want people to know about, your desired reputation that you want to build. So the first 2 or 3 years of your coaching journey as a newbie coach have to be focused on building 3 things: visibility, credibility, and stellar lineup of testimonies from some high-profile clients whose word matters in the industry. Even if I have to work for free for them at the onset, do that. Get that stellar lineup of testimonies to back you as your credibility in the industry of the value you've brought on the table for the who's in your industry. Okay. So this is that internal clarity and thinking like a thought leader on how you communicate your value proposition via the work that you're doing. Now comes the external communication strategy. Okay. I'm going to share a formula with you, which I've had amazing coaches across the world, across diverse industries, to adapt to the way they communicate about the work they do to their world. Okay, are you ready for it? So it's a very simple and elegant formula. It's a combination of 3 things. Okay, 3 things that you do: the action that you promise, the audience that you're serving, and the audacious impact you're enabling them to have in their life. I'll repeat. It's the action that you're promising that you will bring on the table, the audience that you're serving, and the audacious impact that you're making. Now, you've already spoken about your passions, your values, your core strengths as a coach, your vision, the shift that you're bringing about via your work, what target audience you're serving, why you're serving them, the purpose thereof, your thought leadership, why you do what you do better, different, and novel. Bring all these things together in your own unique style and weave it together into one crisp, compelling, and unforgettable statement. We like to call it as a personal brand manifesto because you're manifesting that change, value, transformation, disruption, creation for your target audience. And this is how you communicate what you do. For example, in my case, if you go and check out my LinkedIn headline also, that's where I've used my personal brand manifesto. Okay, when I talk about what I do, I coach thought leaders to build their personal brand from a lens of strategic, spiritual, and social media thought leadership. Now, you'll not find any other personal branding expert, coach, or consultant across the world position themselves like this. And this is the power of this formula, the action that you promise that you're bringing on the table. In this case, as a coach, what you do, right? The audience that you're serving. So I'm serving thought leaders or aspiring thought leaders. So that's how I peg that into the formula. And the audacious impact that I'm doing, what I'm doing different, better, and novel than anyone else in the industry. So that is the one take home I want you to take today and validate the work that you're doing across these 3 parameters. Is my work different, better, and novel than what anyone else is doing in this industry?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tanvi. That is lovely. I mean, the formula sounds very compelling, and I'm sure each one of us here is going to try that out. We are already at 7:05. Are there any questions that the audience has? We'll take 2 questions because we are short on time and we will have to end soon. If there is a question, we'll wait. Okay, I have a question. All 3 of you, what do you think? Quickly, just think and let me know. What do you think coaches today should do more of? Just one thing.
Okay, can I start with that?
Yes.
Okay. Coaches in India are guilty of not doing this enough. Creating thought leadership, assets, intellectual property, books, frameworks, models, systems, processes to transfer the knowledge or expertise that they have to the third party on the table. That is what is missing in India context, at least, because everyone wants to just be a certified coach. They don't want to play the game of thought leadership because, let's face it, it is not easy. That is one thing I strongly encourage all the coaches out there, aspiring coaches out there, to adopt the practice of thought leadership.
Okay. Rosamond?
I know that everybody works on their coaching skills, but then what I would say is one thing that the coaches should never stop doing is actually nurturing relationships. So when I say nurturing relationships, I'm not really meaning to say just with your coachees, but in our industry, we do something called as non-price visits. So even if I have nothing to do with you as a sales client or there's no relationship, but still, can I just nurture my relationship with you without the whole concept of doing a selling, so if you nurture relationships, because today in a saturated world of coaching where you have to, stand out and outshine and be really visible, I think that's the only way to go, where you nurture relationships and be there for the client whenever they require, they'll then call you.
Wonderful. Payal?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I just love the responses from Tanvi and Rosamond both. And I'm going to again integrate them together. For me, human connect is very important, Shraddha. I think sometimes we just go too much by the book. So yes, coaching, its principles, ethics, everything is definitely there and we have to honor all of it, right? But I think it is very important to hold those dialogues, courageous, compassionate dialogues. And I think once the human connect is built, where what Rosamond was talking about again, the rapport would be just would be an invariable output, right? And once you have the trust of the client you're working with, what is this trust that we are looking for? We as humans have been hungry for trust, relationships that feed us in terms of being more vulnerable and at the same time allowing us to grow, right? I think from the time we were in Stone Age, we have been craving for that. And that's why we were in tribes and groups always, right? That's why we align with teams so much. We look forward to. So I think the first and the most basic thing would be to create that space for a dialogue where you genuinely are, I know I'm using coaching parlance, but genuinely are present, for your client, and not just your client, for anyone around you for that matter. So then you are not just the coach during that hour of coaching, right? It's about who you are as a person. So can I be as a person more embracing of people? And once I am that, I think coaching would just be a byproduct. Yeah.
Beautiful put, Payal. Thank you so much. So we'll wrap up for today. It was an absolute delight talking to all 3 of you. The topic itself was interesting, yes, but you made it even more so. The times have changed, and that does make it imperative for us to ask these questions and reinvent our thought processes, which was brought out so beautifully by all 3 of you. And today, we did try and attempt to do it in a small way. So thank you again, panelists, for your invaluable insights. So while a viable business model is what we strive for, like Payal says, one without a purpose would be insipid. So I'll just leave you all with just the last quote from Philip Kotler again. Be a cause, not just a business. Have a higher mission. Thank you, everybody, for being here, being with us. It's been a pleasure. And on behalf of Wiki National Coaching Council also, I would like to thank you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Tanvi, Roseman, Payal. It was an absolute honor.
Thank you so much for
Thank
hosting
you.
us today and initiating this extremely profound discussion. I'm sure there'll be many, many more sessions like this with more brilliant coaches and leaders who've been there, done that, where we can also learn from them.
Great.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you.
I think it was a
Yeah,
wonderful
thank
time.
you.
Thank you, Roseman and Tanvi. I learned so much from you today and from everyone.
Same here.
Take care.
Thank you.
I'll see you on LinkedIn. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you and good night.